Adam Mina Ketam Pasande Sandande
Thus I have heard. At one time, the Blessed One was dwelling in the royal domain of Vulture Peak Mountain with a great gathering of monks and a great assembly of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One was absorbed in the samadhi of the many aspects of phenomena called profound appearance. At the same time, noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva, looking at the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom, saw the five skandhas in their natural emptiness. Then, through the power of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to the noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva, "How should a son of a lineage train who wishes to follow the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom?" Thus he spoke, and the noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva answered the Venerable Shariputra with these words. Shariputra, those men and women of the lineage who wish to follow the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom should look at it like this. The five skandhas should be seen purely in their natural emptiness. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form. Form also is not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, recognition, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, like this, all phenomena are emptiness, and having no characteristics, they are unborn and unceasing. They are not impure or pure. They neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no recognition, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no sensation, no phenomenon. There is no quality of sight and so on, until no quality of mind and no quality of mental consciousness. There is no ignorance and no exhaustion of ignorance, and so on, up to no old age and death, and no exhaustion of old age and death. In the same way, there is no suffering, no origin, no ending, and no path, no wisdom, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, since there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and abide by means of the profound perfection of wisdom. And since their minds have no obscurations, they have no fear. Transcending falsity, they attain nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times have relied upon the perfection of wisdom and have become true and complete Buddhas of unsurpassable, perfect, and complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of the profound perfection of wisdom, the mantra of insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequaled mantra, the mantra which calms all suffering should be known as truth, for it is not deceptive. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is proclaimed. Teata om gate gate paragate parasamgate bodhi soha. Shariputra, this is how a bodhisattva mahasattva should train in the profound perfection of wisdom. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and said to the bodhisattva mahasattva noble Balokiteshvara that he had spoken well. Well done, O son of the lineage, it is so. O son of the lineage, since it is just so, the profound perfection of wisdom should be practiced just as you have taught, and the Tathagatas will also rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, the Venerable Sharadvatiputra and noble Avalokiteshvara, Bodhisattva Mahasattva, and the entire gathering, as well as worldly beings, gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, rejoiced and praised the words of the Blessed One.
多觉清波的些多觉长，就是德罗波当阿罗波，边就中边波当阿的上，两人心老觉老所望的，上波同面一年当着的，觉得的月的当着边边。现上过上六年所年末，要见学别觉了所望的，要月面兄弟入住道，老我这把这边可就上界公众婆婆要厕所，上莫到月觉了所望的。西主当边中阿的上，高当天边明波中等见，念着那些过去所老所，高当那么那那所我的，看见心的自己总阿婆，我到这边我说接错见。当我点别到不给中间，要是就把这老所望的，就算过的那么多节长，看了讲的新年去中年，就当天幕公主正在边，这些那么那老所望的，让就送着给那大爷。给上淘宝这边就我就，这边这边都给这帮人，现在些年闹闹说我的，叫我更多样到那么多，这边去这边闹闹学去，啥都弄就有点绕着的。我就讲给我，让到有上街就当做的就那，想就不多的呢就做的，大概就别错那的，到了边些上街如果就上街就做的就那，想就不多的呢就做。大概就别错那的，罗了平些上街罗不求上街，要当做的就那想就把多大年就做，大概就别错那的，罗了平些上街罗不求。哎呀。那的，啊的，当我去前年时候，他去前年时的，就是呢，他那到这几年嘛，都当我做上学的，老师讲的，上学你就要当年说的几了的。
什么也从那个对生啊也或是空白。
当我做去前年时呢，去时呢，他那大些的嘛都到上学了，你就要当年时呢的，让你到上学的啷个了这一他现在就了啊，去的对是呢，他那个要呢。
So, when speaking about Dharma or practicing Dharma, so the term, well, so we have a term Dharma. Dharma literally means to transform ourselves, to transform one's own mind, transforming one's mind from negative to positive, or becoming by means of transforming one's mind, then one is becoming a better person. That is what is meant by Dharma.
那我做上学生呢，看得起了那个人，研学生呢看得起那个人。你今天的天比光呢，上学生看得那个人，研学生看得那个人。你今天的天比光呢，上学生的了，年把这样，研学生的了，七八节也了，所以这样的了。
So what is how do we really identify, negative and positive? And so, how do we identify considering something as a positive, which correspond to the mundane existence, and how does that one identify something that is negative, which is something that is considered to be a negative, and engaging in such actions are said to be punished.
Jitse karasana zangshu le chena dechi jinso da rangla dechi yongwo re nyesho le chena jinso da shenla kanyen da donghe zo yin zane den do tao yi tianda ro ata so.
So here now, positive and negative here, speaking about the actions. So if one engages in the actions that are negative, so it is not only becoming harmful for oneself, it also becoming harmful to the society at large. So if one is able to engage in positive deeds, and as a result of such positive deeds, it benefits not only oneself, also benefits society at large.
Da tendu yin ma zo ge ce tong bi ani ngone yin je den ge da me tong la zin le ge bi ge nang sen de ji zhen de sen ge de tao den ge da la an dang ba tu bi wang yin za ne na nga zo ge den ge dang ba sen na re ge gen san na re an den ge dang ba tu bi wang bo de tang se ye je rang jin ji ji an rang ge me sang de ne nang ba de le me ba che.
So here now, when speaking about transforming one's mind from negative to positive, so mind, when we were talking about the mind, it is not something that can be seen by our eye consciousness and can be heard and touched and so forth. It is something that is very abstract entity. So therefore, in order for such abstract entity to transform, in order to transform such entity, the Buddha then taught what is called the Dharma, which bring about inner transformations. And so therefore, at this point, let's visualize Buddha who taught us the inner transformations and with the radiating light from his body on the space above one's forehead.
Ti jitse karasana nga su gegen chi ma ten na minri gegen chi ten ga na tanda gi zamalin de ga la ani tenri ge thaw ma no wa ten ge ani damba tu be ombo ne ani da langre ji be na ma rang gi je cha yi na ma le la bi ge gegen chi me ba se bo che yin sa ne tenri ge ka ni je ne sa na re damba to sa ne rang gi min sa de ni la ne me ba che yu de ga la ya ji san ba la le bo ya da ani da thong sa nyang nyu to ne se na san ba la lo bo ya de ji 대례기 고주 개시시에서는 아니 소는 저는 서로 통제다. 라마 나와도 메기 신년도 먼저 되게 받쳐서 뭐 잡으러.
So now here, when we speak about, transforming our mind, and suddenly it requires a guidance or the teacher who really teach us how to bring about inner transformations. So it is therefore we could safely say that Buddha is the one who can consider as a qualified teacher or the authentic teacher who can bring about our transformations. And then followers of the Buddha, such as lineage gurus of stages of the path to enlightenment, or the Lam Rim Chenmo, Lam Rim lineage gurus, all the way to one's spiritual teacher or to one's root guru. So by visualizing Buddha in front of oneself at the level of one's forehead, surrounded by all those lineage gurus, is on the gross level, it will bring about peace of mind. It will actually bring about relaxation within one's mind by means of these visualizations. On the subtle level, or by means of such visualization, will also become a propensity, or will leave the strong imprints of encountering, authentic teachers in one's future life, and will lead oneself to an unmistaken path to enlightenment.
rangi thako to ne rangi tren ne rangla ngosen jo ye ne je phama rangi pinja da ne je ne so de ta ye bi se je rangda ji song de wan de ji do dong ye men de ba yin ba che ani de ge ji song yin ba de ni ge jiao da re sa de ne shu be ne na ma che na ji de wo sa ne de ne shu be na ma la de ba ne rangda nyam ye be ni se je le be ni je ta de ba da jin je ni yin ne ka ma ni song chi be ba che yin da.
So then, being oneself in their presence and surrounded by all other sentient beings who has a similar wish to achieve happiness and overcome suffering as we do, and with these reflections, one then visualize by having cultivating a genuine faith towards the object of refuge that you have visualized above, in the space above, at the level of your forehead, and then extending your compassion, cultivating compassion towards all other sentient beings. With these two in mind, let's take a couple of minutes to meditate.
Ai, tanto grande de That really cannot chibachi money, the concept of say, journey, and Shanchu Langiring Pass. Jamala Matonga, which be Shanchu, Doshu, and Shana Shanchu Langiring Bar. Answer Janine, Parin Chamos, one is the Shandaman Dawani. You've been knowing any Mason Doshu Senate, then the one you need to be in Shanchu Langiring Bar. Gospel.
So with this positive motivations, the teaching that we are receiving today is the great deities and the stages of the path to enlightenment by Lama Tsongkhapa, and which is mostly elaborating on the sutra system. It is the teachings in this great deities and the stages of the path to enlightenment is actually given on the in accordance with the sutra system, and then the Lam Rim Chenmo, which is the stages of the path, path to Vajrayana, which is also given by Lama Tsongkhapa, which teaches the system of Tantrayana. So at this point, we are receiving the great deities on the stages of the path to enlightenment. So with this, then let's begin our discussions on the great teachers and the stages of the path to enlightenment by laying out those four important outlines, such as the greatness of the authors given in order to show the teachings as noble souls, showing the greatness of the teachings in order to engender respect for the teachings, and the greatness of enabling one to understand that all of the scriptures are instructions for the practice, and how to listen to the teachings in which both teaching and its authors are great. This is then followed by the subdivisions of the sequence in which the disciples are to be taught, the actual instructions, and then how to rely on the spiritual teacher, which is the root of one's spiritual path, and how do students train their mind after having relied on authentic teacher. So when receiving the teachings of the great teachers on the stages of the path to enlightenment, it's unlike receiving the other kind of teachings. It's not something that you wanted to know more and you wanted to get more information and some kind of new knowledge. This is not how we should listen to the teachings of the great teachers of the stages of the path to enlightenment. So how do we listen to such teachings, O Lam Rim Chenmo? When we are listening, whatever the teachings that you have listened, even a one word, trying to the fullest extent of one's ability to bring about inner transformations. This is how you should be listening. In other words, one can, whatever the teachings that you may have listened, the teachings on the stages of the path to enlightenment, one should mix the teachings with one's mind. This is how one should be. The listeners of the teachings of Lam Rim Chenmo must be in this way.
소소기 해고여나 추대기 신로기 주바기 도노로라 신년대 소소게 받도 로그에 지여래 양지 마셔바 시비도도 옛날 렌센렌제 총로에 지리 그래 대말에 되게 매년 고시에 댄스는 주물이 손주주 받도 타자스 로바스디 시지단 제비관의 로트에 지고요.
So it's, this should be really, one should really study this, the teachers and the stages of the path to enlightenment in a very practical way, in other words. Right from the beginning of the practice of beginning from, relying upon the spiritual teachers all the way to the state of unity, in other words, state of enlightenment. And so, in this in this particular teachings, it's actually given very specifically and lucidly in a very proper sequential order of our practice, beginning from relying upon a spiritual teacher all the way to the state of enlightenment.
Da senjene shobal lozi la song, senjene lobal logo bi jase, lobal rewa la lobe, sanje menruba temba, lobal lobe rimba nishe ba aji, da tombo nindita. Da lobal lobe rimba nishe ba la ni, teje shoba chila lozi da, teba chimba chila lozi da, cheba da, sanga doje teba lozi yeji. Da tombo la song, shanse jala ba la hande jangwa jane desi de dama zonga zone jetali bi tsuyeji. Da tombo nindita, da zone jetali bi tsila son kana lobi je, de laba ne, de la lobi rimba aji. Da tombo nindita, da de la lobi rimba la, ni shoba chila lozi da, cheba da pashe tamani la lozi yeji. Da tombo la, ni rangi sanje jumi bashi wa paro shima lozi na, shenji jumi bashi wa diyo ngombo je la lozi, tombo la chu, shimba lozi, tsutun lozi, zoba lozi, zunri lozi, sante lozi, shira lozi yeji. Da diyo logi nga zongi ni shira lozi. Jase ji shanchu sembi damba sone, je yudongwe, jase ji shoba la lao gobi, paro de shimba chugi no ne, tama, ne shira ji paro de shimba lozi de la ayo chi ma saji.
So we're on the particular, chapter of the last perfections, which is the perfection of wisdom.
되지. 다 되는 싫어 파신 요 소예배 나기 가서 아니 싫어지 다저 말로는데 싫어지 뭐 대체 발은지 비타 아니 싫어지 잡도 야와 세다가 저러도 야와 가돌래데 가서 사지데 강라가 디강라 도디게 냐나게 치드만 르르전에 지로로 정해 지로샤게 가서 많이 됐으면 야 됐을 시기적이 치드 년보시 요진도 대시로 담바 만노와 찬사시 시이나 도 뒤장 동하당 태바 공원에 라진 가타치 상와라 제바티나 템바 타달은 루투버시 거베 덴더워시 많이 봐도 냥내지 쇼레 상라 좋아지 바세지 템비 류용수 조비 냥내지 내라 녀바 니 미시베 담비시에 당 돌라테 켈람비 수진 다바 지존 담바양당양의 년에 튼이제데 미나장 하다나마라 소아 자도 떠네 소사바당 주바 장와 고트만인 주비 제 차상레라 베나 데네 로 셰바 고네 고도 페위 네바 띵 수바제와 예노 손도데 데지 르르지로로지.
So now we're on the page 221, last paragraph. Rinpoche wants to read the previous paragraph as well that we have already been read. Let's go back to the previous paragraph, and read that one paragraph, which starts from, it is the third paragraph. It says, consequently rely upon excellent teachers and companions. Make a foundation of pure ethical discipline to which you commit yourself. Listen again and again to the instructions. Do 4 sessions of meditations, and then sustain the object of meditation and its subjective aspects. After you have met fervent supplication to the deities and gurus, strive at all costs of engaging from many perspectives in accumulating the collections and purifying obscurations. If you do this, you will become profoundly certain that the good qualities in your mind will steadily improve, as the former excellent being said. That's all. So make all teachings you have previously heard completely clear in your mind. You must reflect upon them again and again, evaluate them, and deliberate on them. When you have led yourself, when you have led yourself, forget the teachings. There's nothing gained by learning to stabilize your attention on one object of meditations. The best meditators are the best teachers. The mediocre meditators are the mediocre teachers. You need knowledge of the teachings and commensurate meditation that both proceed to ever greater level together. So here now, whatever the instruction that you may have received, and then you should be able to, summarize all this, the instructions, and to be able to take it into meditation practice. Because just by listening and understanding the meaning and following the meaning's orderly manner alone is not sufficient enough for one's, the practice of meditations. Therefore, it's also mentioned that the best meditator would be the best teacher, and then mediocre meditators, mediocre teachers, and so forth. It is true, because without having, engaged in intense meditation and gaining a deep, realization of spirituality, it is not possible for one to give teachings to others. So without, so therefore, if one has gone through a proper meditations and gain a realizations as a result of one's meditations, then one can share one's experiential knowledge just by not sharing your knowledge from the text, but rather through experience. You're sharing your experiential knowledge, so the one will be the best teacher as the best meditator. So, for instance, let's talk about if someone who has not really gone through a proper studies of the Buddha Dharma, just simply introduce calm abiding, in other words, single pointed meditation, or there's shamatha, the meditation on shamatha. So this will, certainly be able to practice and be able to, actualize the realization of shamatha by able to focus yourself on the chosen object of meditations. But that's it. We will not be able to have more than that. Just by able to maintain one's mind single-pointedly on the particular chosen object alone is not an ample practice of the Buddha Dharma. It requires furthermore.
투상슈 첨보당 강슈 첨보 정해이나 라니기 강기 돈의 냐뇽 돈의 세요데 아니 다담바 냐뇽 돈의 시바로 덤비 냐뇽 돈의 송바로 대나게 저 거래마도 다정 되게 저런 뭐 저기 내가 세쇼도 가서 거에서도 인지 미지기 강저데 전조 송제잖아 아니 강 신내이나래 신내기 또 같은 강 간지 지어서나 아니 강 잡아대니 돈도 쳐봐 일은 주투바지 거래서.
So therefore, the importance of listening to the teachings, extensive listening to the teachings, contemplation and meditations must be done, without, the devoid of another. So in other words, we have to incorporate or integrate all those three things together. It is therefore Lama Tsongkhapa or the Rinpoche has stated, again and again by saying that one's meditation must be that of in a combination of two, which is single-pointed meditation and analytic meditations. This must be combined. By means of such meditation, then one will be able to, stabilize one's mind on what is right. You'll be able to eliminate all these doubts and something that you have not known earlier must be eliminated by means of those combination of those two meditations or the unity of those two meditations.
쿠이칼라 메네바시 온 대메나 대판에 바래요 싫어메라 대라 무이 칼라 따야나 뭐죠 거비 칼라데는 거죠 최나진도 지세라 대냐네 같이 산로 송도아데 송도아데 된디.
So here now it is form of summarizing. Actually, it doesn't say it's a summarize, but it's a form of summarizing what Rinpoche says. Once you gain a firm certainty from such reflections, you do not pay heed when bad friends say all thoughts, virtues and non-virtues are conceptualizations and are therefore to be eliminated, but rather think the teachings do not say this, nor do my teachers assert it. Otherwise, if you are a person who possesses a little faith but no wisdom, you are like the leading edge of water running downhills. You go anywhere you are led. Taking anything said to be true, wanting to cry when you see others crying, wanting to laugh when you see others laugh.
도서 제세 상노도 배 제세열이 먼저에는 데려와 배는 미치기 단단한 속에 뒤속에 되셔들지라 최전에 가르쳐 그래 또그 당선하는 매편 저하시만의 강조 차고 말이라나 너무 뒤지러와 되지는 문제 전에 아니 배들 레전드다 세디 집고 강연버데 제샤와이나 다 렌저리 시시 고아 말에 봐도 제세 이렇게 좀 통해 지러와 되지 칼냐와이나 아니 배디 존존더서는 징에 들어와.
So here now it's really true. Without having a proper understanding of Buddha Dharma, even if one has a little faith in the teachings of the Dharma, and with the little faith in the teachings of the Dharma, then we're in a very vulnerable situation, right? We can be brainwashed by anyone. When someone just comes and say, well, the practice of Dharma doesn't help you at all. It doesn't help you to have name or wealth, prestige. This is not going to help you. So then, it is really, on the one hand, if you really think without having a deep understanding, you will believe in that. It's certainly it is easy for us to believe in something that is negative instructions. It doesn't require any efforts. We follow that, naturally. So therefore, we need to really to have a firm understanding and a very stabilized knowledge must have on the basis of genuine appreciation to law of cause and effect or the karma and its result. So without having a proper understanding of karma and having a proper appreciation to the law of cause and effect, then our faith and practice will remain in a very vulnerable situations.
되나 라니 연나셔 베제 동안에 이니 유레 제반 주통에 제보래 아니 럼보 천하같이 맞아서.
So here now, in brief, by utilizing one's intellect and try to have self-confidence in one's practice and should not be led by anyone. In other words, any, negative companions or the advices.
다 뒤선 뒤서 때스 다 장으로 지까지 때스 다르만도 뒤 바로 질 추로바 땡에 세나리에 딱 추어도 총반도 자 기본적이 전에 강에 쉬우지 전에 장으로 질 저한테마다 당연히 쉬우 정하러 장으로 저도네 다 맞아 배반이 날에 저나마서 맞다지 제쇼세네 근데 송와로 되게 강에 제비가라 라 수석이 나저 배제 동투나 추어도 마비 차고 말이야 가사도 마비 차도 그러와.
So here it is very important now. It is getting a little bit better now. It is due to the kindness of His Holiness the Dalai Lama's advice. Because previously, there are many different Dharma teachers who claim to be a Dharma teacher just by, listened and read the books and texts and whatever they read and explanations and claim that is their realizations and teachings and giving the teachings to others. And then so much so that their teachings of the Dharma has almost become a form of business, in other words. And it is because of that His Holiness received many complaints and different questions from many followers. So then His Holiness answer to their question is to that you should be the responsible, right from the beginning. Always be very careful and investigate and, analyze whether someone who is claiming him or herself as a teacher can be worthwhile to be your own teacher. And it is our responsibility to really find out, is this the right person whom I can rely upon my spiritual path, my spiritual journey? This is very, very important. So it's getting a little better. It is due to His Holiness advice and now.
That is a guess also the general law. That's it. The medical get the Konogi Shipula Karindu Sene. Young Shipula Jenda, Kanamashi, the Demasian, the old Giroa. Then Amazon, Children of Kessia, Amazon de Gomba Kagi, Kangi Mobuchi, Tandala, Shishaka, Church and Dogore, Shibula, Benjo de Kichi, Tandarena, here the Manoachi and Dogora. That the Nayang, Yankasiki Amari, shared the Demasian and Dora. They mean near Michela mentioned and she will lying on the inside to do it, Yamada Sona, then send the singing of Mewachavi.
So, although when someone's giving a teachings and maybe someone is on the purpose of, the other Sangha community's welfare and maybe, giving some teachings and receiving some offerings for the welfare of other Sangha communities and the large monastic communities. And such teacher who is giving the teachings is the authentic teachings, then that should be fine. Otherwise, there are many who may come out and claim him or herself as a realist person, as an authentic teacher, and boldly, give the teachings of the Dharma to anyone who would like to receive and so forth. So for that, we as followers, the followers of the Dharma, must be careful and be responsible for oneself to analyze whoever is giving teaching is the real whoever is giving the teaching is a real teacher who is giving the real teaching. Sorry.
That's somebody share Jero de Yavala, some day. Don't to be share, Kunzo to be share, Senje Tenji, Sinjin, Denshawa to be share, so, Tombone, and so on.
Now the next is the division of wisdom, right? The presentation of division of wisdom has three parts: wisdom that knows the ultimate, and wisdom that knows the conventional, wisdom that knows how to act for the welfare of living beings.
So, share, say the Gesha Konon machine, the Co Shinju Jengas and any Jamba Jengas on a Tonding is and a Tero, share Sona.
So wisdom is something that actually discerns what is right and what is bad, and what is right and what is wrong, and something that can ascertain what is true.
Lochi Yami Tasharmado, Tandanga, so share out the Jimba down to the Miki Passion to ye, Lo to the Jimatangaso Tanda Yeparwa. Yepareda, Tangaso ye. Share passion all down to Guru. Do you
So all the practice of six types of practices, such as practice of generosity, ethical discipline, patience, perseverance, concentrations and wisdoms. This actual seed of all those realizations are present in our continuum. So what we need to do is now, it is our responsibility is to really to transform all of this into a perfection, or the paramita, the perfection of generosity, perfection of ethical discipline, and so on.
Shiro Pashinsena, Matson Shirogi Trishan de Sever, Shirogi Tira de Besorjira, the Paro de Sing, Paro the Dog, Paro de Simba said, Dobitaroa. Matson Shiro de Paro de Lebu.
it is Shiraparchin, which is gone beyond, the wisdom gone beyond. So we are not gone beyond, we are gone below right now. So therefore, by means of our practice, one should make an effort and persevere to transform, make our wisdom into a wisdom gone beyond. Wisdom, the perfection of wisdom.
다 동보 된다 도비 싫어도 별사나 동보 내서 다다레 다메비 대 코나니 된지고는 제와당 모두 주비고는 제와오 손들.
Then here it says wisdom that knows the ultimate, which is the first division of the wisdom. It said wisdom that knows the ultimate recognizes the reality of selflessness, either by means of concept or in a direct manner.
되지. 제다에 나가서 근조 된바다 된다 된바세요디 다 조네 나체 받아서 조네 추 탐치 아니 근조 된바로와 디 땡이 아니 데니 랑문이 마주바세네리 디 땡이 춘이데 된다 된바로와 데니 랑문이 마주바세네리고 랑문도 쪽에 동안이.
So now normally we have when it comes to the objective phenomena, there are of two kinds. One is the conventional phenomena, or one is the ultimate, the other one is the ultimate phenomena. So conventional phenomena are such as form and all those other phenomena, such as beginning from form to the omniscience. Those are all of those phenomena are said to be the conventional phenomena. And an ultimate phenomena is the suchness or the thusness of those phenomena, which is lack of inherent existence of all those phenomena are said to be the ultimate phenomena.
되지. 당가서 되지 뭐지라 도바 타데서. 주 동바오세요. 나게래. 주데 근도 된바. 주 동바데 주 이팅이 된다 된바. 뭐지라 도바 타데서.
So it is the presentation of the ultimate phenomena and the conventional phenomena as a essentially identical, but conceptually distinct. Which, for instance, Zogtongbo in the Heart Sutra, which we all are familiar with, the form is emptiness, which actually talks about both conventional and ultimate. Form is a conventional phenomena, and Tongpa is empty, which talks about the ultimate phenomena.
지당에 대 가르사 예 변주진의 대화되는 데 정원로지 대양서 정원 대는 은행 지난데 대년가 수에 대 정원로지 나초 뭐데 제천체 대성으로 이 네치 대니 대시데스 대인 주도 코아지쟁에스 알레 이 네치 대니 대시베 대인 주도 코아지쟁에 세메 준비 조선 대바데 당한 자주고 생겨라서야 돼. 예, 다나가서 주다 대바나다서 뭐도 제기. 그 쇼지 팀바 보유로다 팀바 제바제여와 니 쇼진 선에 내가 좀 쇼쪽에서 정으로 양선되게 해 놓어도 돼.
그렇지 않겠습니다. 근데 시인에서 되니다 아니 대
시인에서 되니 된시에서 동보.
되니기 된시에 롤스라.
시인에서 되니 된시에 아니 거의 denship 코안 주도 지정해서
라슬라스
den이기 내지의 시비 진짜지 아니 denship 코안 주도 지마치 하고 있는 거래서
코주도 라스
데 지네지 den이 denship에 den신 주도 코안 지정해서 야 세메 정배 조선 대바때 상황도 주고 신들 다 정도 치바지 지켜와라 혼도라 방지 제도저라 넘버 세단 되면지 차와는 되거든. 조선 신들로선.
So here now in the praise of the 17 17 masters or the 17 pundits. So His Holiness often read this verse by saying that by understanding the understanding the basis of the two truths will lead oneself to understand the Four Noble Truths, will enables one to, uh, how enables one to understand how beings are, revolve within the cyclic existence, how the beings can, reverse this cyclic existence. And by means of such understanding, one then take refuge in three jewels, the authentic three jewels, in other words. With this, then one will then be able to establish the root of liberations. May great beings bless me to be able to do this. So whenever His Holiness to the introduction of the Dharma, he always touched this topic, bringing this the following with this topic, then followed by the verse from Abhisamaya Alamkara, Tuvdantyamba Namdani, which is accomplished and truths will be followed, and so forth. So this is how if one should always when one is able to read and understand the particular verse of Abhisama Alamkara, then this will then really give us a hope for establishing the root of liberation. So without understanding, when I think here now, when we talk about the two truths, we're not simply just talking about something that does not exist. It's not something like a fairy tale. We're talking about the actual reality, the basis of actual reality. That is what it all means. That is what is meant by the two truths. It is on the basis of understanding these two truths, one is then be able to, understand how beings are revolved within the cyclic existence, and how one can break the chain of this cyclic existence and gain the state of liberation and to the state of enlightenment. So this is very important to understand two truths, because when we study this four philosophical tenets, right from the beginning, each school of thoughts will introduce two truths and definition to two truths, which actually entails a very important for one to understand. First of all, the two truths as a basis for development of one's spiritual knowledge.
디렉션이 전도로 미제데 다시 담아내는 만에다 니벨 호지바도 로그 상수의 센터에서 또 방사자 디셀레서.
So let's take a break here.
Yes. 야, 당가 마스로 아니 양가 저 되네. 타마디인데 저한테네. 이제 저가 당가 마스로 인다. 되지. 단단 가서 다 가서 단단도 베셔라들 인세데 아니 저당 가서 로기 유도인데 아니 된지던 되거든 도치지다 아니 된지도 만져와 유저바도 지니 세데네 돈이 또 받아서게 된지던 되거든 돈이 또 베네 단단도 베셔라지다 아니 돈이 무슨 또 베네 단단도 베셔라 니에요 선도.
So here, when under the division of wisdom, the first is a wisdom that knows the ultimate, right? And then it says, under the wisdom that knows the ultimate, that ultimate recognize realizes the selflessness either by means of concept or in direct manner. So now, normally, when we speak about, recognizing things, not only the reality, but also recognizing the things and any things in event, it can be recognized either by means of conceptual thought or by directly means. So there are two different ways. What is meant by conceptually means that when conceptually realized or the understanding things, it understands and realizes with involvement of mediations. Whereas others are direct, without involvement of any mediation. It has a direct realization, a direct cognization of the object. So similarly, when it comes to the selflessness or the emptiness, emptiness can also be recognized by means of, the concept or the conceptually or directly without any involvement of mediations. So there are two kinds. So however, when someone who gained a direct realization of emptiness, and then such wisdom can only possess only by the Arya beings or the superior beings. There is no such realization of emptiness possessed by ordinary beings.
Nipa kyunzo tobe shirala, nipa nenchi, repeat nengala kibi shirabde, dode jenle, repeat nenga tala tsumba majana, pancho kiechan, tangchi chini menju de, teta yana yenda tsaji jizondang, dani kinshi shashi, dela dezun sha, shesomba da sondo.
So then here it says, wisdom that knows the conventional. Wisdom that knows the conventional is a wisdom that is proficient at the 5 topics of knowledge. The ornament of Mahayana Sutra says, without making effort at the 5 topics of knowledge, even supreme noble beings do not reach omniscience. So they must strive for this so as to refute others, to care for others, and to know everything.
That is the hit was saying the Shesomba da sondo. Temple Manu Pana, sachi bishir dada tensi ripa tanchi. Meba nala penda bishir zodan soari patang. Rani kensheba shayi shi nang ripa tsuwane goba chidaba yinla si. Deda tangche jang sanje chuyo tabi shito tsuwane chidab meba o sombane.
So then here it says, the topics are distinguished by the different sorts of purpose for the pursuing them. To refute those who do not believe in the teachings, you pursue the knowledge of grammar and logic. To help those who do believe, you pursue knowledge of arts and medicine. To achieve knowledge of all for yourself, you pursue Buddhist knowledge. But to attain Buddhahood, there are no such distinctions between them. You must pursue all the topics of knowledge.
자가 인기만 싫어받는 남바터서라 니 젠자인데 땜바 젠주네 리파톤네 사제레 제로 내가 줬던 마쇼기 파이에도 보통 깨쳐 말해 리필 로바 사제와 로타 사제네 양다발 거야 되로와 그래서 카도 지 로바 사제세에 대한 지 남바지 시에로 대신다지를 매고서 지 거야 때 말와.
So when speaking about here the refute, we're not refuting something with the bad intentions or or in a wrathful manners. It is we're refuting others wrong belief system that is to be refuted by means of gaining the knowledge of grammar and logic.
아니 다다 지타도 제가 매버서야 돼 아니 리핏 냥하기 소소소소기 실례잖아 아니 라라기 지타들이래서 된저 메셔제 아니 라니 상제고 아니다 최통지 시장인고 아니다 리핏 냥아 시그래 세데 지타 마셔나 된저에서 도.
So here all of this five arts of knowledge are required for us because in order to gain the state of enlightenment, one so suddenly when we are pursuing when we are engaging in practice and striving for complete enlightenment, you're suddenly in pursuit of omniscient minds. In order to achieve omniscient mind, you must know all those five arts of knowledge.
된제제 다 somba 선제 된제 싫어데 가르를 선제 된샤와 또 싫어네 somba 내지 선제 당제 된데다 심이 된카나 마도와 매버 주비 수시바오 손도데스.
So then the third is the wisdom that knows how to act welfare for the other living beings. Wisdom that knows how to act for the welfare of living beings, knows the way to accomplish blamelessly the welfare of beings in their present and future lives.
이 파신 넘버더서라 대샤와 주지스는 뭐 강가를 transfer. 내게 될라 데다 심이 카나 마토와 매버주스 데다 심이에 데다 심하니까 초라 동에데 카나 마토와 녀모데로와. 아니 녀모 매버지스 간제 시바데 땅에데 아니 리바 담에도 비셔라데로와.
So here now it says wisdom that knows how to act for the welfare of living beings, knows the way to accomplish blamelessly the welfare of beings in the present and future. So here, what is to be blameworthy is the delusions or the affective emotions are said to be the blameworthy. And now, in order to eradicate those two, one need to gain the wisdom that understands, which understands the ultimate nature of reality, which enables those negative emotions or the delusions or the afflictions can be eliminated. To eliminate, sorry.
카나마토와 세데 녀모르샤 아니 녀모데 메바서 지싱에데 아니 담에도 비셔라 단지 레자 아니 담에도 비셔라 레자 따다도와
So this afflictions is a blameworthy, and wisdom that understands selflessness will eradicate the delusions or the afflictive emotions, which is harmful for oneself in the present and future.
drupi tsuketa shawane tsayi sachi shibatere 아니 간주 두고서나 싫어 대선 집이 채나 담바 주된의 샤와도 파신 주된의 파신 주던저와 샤데 대다 제네 아레 랑델네네 제 싫어는 거바네 싫어지 심바인라 제 마마시노 어서
And here it says how to practice, right? When you develop the three types of wisdom, you do so in association with the six supremacies and all six perfections. The generosity of wisdom is establishing others in wisdom after you have stabilized yourself in it. The remaining perfections are presented before.
당은 담바 주된의 도제거든요. 싫어지 파신 냥선련발라 때 상추선라 땡거래 땡 담바
So now we also have discussed on this particular topic of what we call the six supremacies, or just sixfold supreme way, which is also known as sixfold supreme way. That's just the six fundamental ways of accomplishing the six perfections. The first, one's wisdom realizing emptiness, or wisdom realizing emptiness, must be, supported by the mind of enlightenment, or the enlightened spirit, the spirit of enlightenment. It is known as maintaining the mind of enlightenment as the fundamental basis.
대상 주선라 땡바지 당고보 담바 선라소나 니 코송 덴바 메바스나 코송 차베 마zem바스나레 코송 젠델 미바스나 던데치네 자기도
So then next is ngobo damba, engaging in the six perfections in an unbiased manner as a fundamental approach.
체드샤와 담바스는 선제 탕지 있다도 싫어 봐서고 그래 세듯이 체드샤와 선제
Chedajawa damba is the third. It's working for the welfare of all sentient beings as a fundamental beneficiary of one's practice.
턱켜버 담바스디 아니 싫어 봐서 그럼 아니 젠데 두발라 켜봐봐
So Tabkepa Damba is conjoining all one's practice, the practice with the thought of purity of three factors, which is referring to the wisdom realizing emptiness itself, which is through skillful wisdom as a fundamental means.
당호와 담바스나 미 담바스나 아니 선제 탕지게 되어도 인자네 아니 호와 담바스나도
So then the fifth one is dedicating all one's virtue to the attainment of the sublime state of enlightenment as a fundamental dedication.
나바타바 담바스디 아니 드니 밤비체도 소다
So the number daba damba, which means applying antidote for the forces against the two types of afflictions, or the delusions, obscurations, in other words, as the fundamental purification.
싫어파신 냥선행에 가사들 지 혼로게 삼바세나리 메신다지게 저 가르쳐 좋아 동서나 던데지게 셈바데 다 차기다 덴바세나 던데레 당아서 단이 가사 깨작하도 고데버시나 아니 차진되었다 덴비토네 싫어파신 냥선행에 세들
So one's practice of wisdom, or perfection wisdom, must be supported by all the six supremacies, or the sixfold supreme ways, beginning from bodhicitta and so on.
라니 싫어파신라 내내 제 싫어파신라 거바데 아니 다 취지심 바차고에 들어 준비 파신에서도 젠다 아이 지바인 소도
So practicing oneself in the practice of wisdom realizing emptiness, and then propounding that one's practice of wisdom realizing emptiness to others, in order teaching how to cultivate wisdom realizing emptiness towards others, is a practice of generosity in conjunction with wisdom realizing emptiness.
수천 파셔서는 란데 이시지 삼바 도바리스 그러 란데 이시지 삼바가네 젠다 바실라니 수천지 파신 다랑 차기도.
When it comes to the practice of morality, it's something that, abstaining yourself from harmful acts of the body, speech, and mind with regard to others, and committing yourself to not to engage in any actions which becomes an infraction or becomes a declination of one's moral conduct. So this is also again in refraining from working solely for oneself. So then the other two practices of perseverance and the patience is automatically followed, because without patience, one is not be able to engage in any practice, and without perseverance, it is not possible for one to gain the realizations. Then without having a single pointed concentrations or the samadhi, suddenly it's not possible for one to gain wisdom realizing selflessness.
마치 되는 바로 싫어지 파셔 생기도록 과 비디오지 판에 아니 될라 손도 와서 싫어 파셔 양념이 또는 상주 선바도서 편반 도서도서 당기도 내는데 제국의 연도 와서는 소소 이샤 상지만 제마도나 제벌 소도 와.
So this is how we should practice, as advised by the great teachers, by saying that when one comes to the practice of wisdom, so this is how we should be practicing. One's practice of wisdom must be followed by the explanation given above.
사투비 싫어지 파신 나장 회비 유대 셴네 장와당 예시지 초첨부 군내 군레 공나 매바 주어바 시비 탑 싫어 송제발라 다다니 베진 토바츠 거대 송도.
So then here the last is a summary. Even if you have the wisdom that perceives emptiness, it does not become a bodhisattva state without the spirit of enlightenment. So steadily increase the spirit of enlightenment, the basis of the bodhisattva states. Next, then aspire to the wisdom of those at high levels, and then train your mind in it.
가서 20세대 거라 손 찬송만지 손사소나 아니 다 가령 뭐지 실사도 다 가령 하고 마송 생애지 매차에 된다라 아니 싫어지 파신데 도 뒤소나 아니 저런게 늘늘지는 양해 제쇼 소야리지.
So this summary is now a summary of how one really practices wisdom. If one aspires to engage in the practice of wisdom, how should one be done? So, and this summary actually gives a very, vital instructions.
당가 저기 녀터다랑지 파파 대다기들 돈이 오소도 로예장 아니 타지 준비 절만도와 가래래서나 니 상주생여 말에 세달라다 단단히 다랑 단다.
So then here, although arhats, right? Arhats, such as Sherpaka and particular Buddhas, they do possess this wisdom realizing emptiness. Then why they are not being able to achieve enlightenment? It is due to the lack of spirit of enlightenment or the bodhicitta. So this is the answer.
양 연주 상주선의 공지자 수비자와 대시 땡려도 털어면서 양 상주선의 연주 찍고 강반에 양 팽을 팽거 말이 돈유도 놀러면은 팽거 말이
So then again here, just mastering over renunciation and spirit of enlightenment alone is not an ample realization of gaining state of enlightenment. It also requires wisdom realizing emptiness, as we find in the three principal aspects of the path, right? So therefore, without having wisdom realizing emptiness, one will not be able to cut the root of cyclic existence. So therefore, wisdom realizing emptiness is necessary.
다른 시에는 상주 선바 상선 파바도서 시견이 이제 탈은 내가 말이 세대 과시 시다 시비 탈은 내가 말이 시 탈은 내가 말이 시비 탈 가르 내가 말이잖아 다음에 또 다음에 무슨 또 싫어야 돼 시바 아니 코알 내가 말이 아니 hin지 첨부 여하잖아 라니 찍고 시대 때문에 내가 말이 선제 타지에 때도 아니 시와면 내배냐 대해서 내가 그래 시게 탈면 내 송으로
So therefore the Arya Bodhisattvas are said to be not fall into the two extremes, the extremes of peace and extremes of cyclic existence, because they are not falling into the extreme of cyclic existence, because they have gained a direct realization of emptiness, and they are not falling into the extreme of peace. They have an uncontrived, in other words, the great compassion for all sentient beings. With those two qualities, they are actually free from two extremities.
딱 가서는 하자 뒤뒤 가르쳐서는 아니 민치 가서 돈유도 왜 싫어 장바에 조비 상제 공부 터도 말하면 또 인san 상주기 생게 땡시네 사통볼라 내비 상주 삼바나제 담에 또 쓰되니라 라니 인어서 또 두고는 하나의 이유도 있잖아요 로장 아니 로장보다 냐도라 아니 초사 대장 제네 아니 가르사 토바데 추고 그래 손도아 아주 카투데레 돈유도 왜 싫어 그래요
just mere wisdom realizing emptiness will not lead us to the state of enlightenment, because to become one's wisdom realizing emptiness a source of one's enlightenment, achievement of one's enlightenment, one's wisdom must be built on the basis of spirit of enlightenment or the bodhicitta. So therefore, we also pray ourselves from the depth of one's heart. May I too practice as a great Arya Bodhisattva has practiced.
That's so good. Deta majana logic zo dangene ni donggen jomba tang. Sero jen de yang mondo tobala megaye. Shansen je loja na la loba minila. Se de shero jebi to na la bena. De ma kasa re de ma lobi ni dong keshin. Sero jen de yang la san ji shiba somba ta shero je paro de shimba. So
then he says, from this moment, you must strive to produce the three types of wisdom, the method of completing the peerless great collections of the sublime wisdom, and you must study. For if you do not do this, you contradict the principal precept and will then be destroyed by the faults and infractions in the future lives as well. So you will not take pleasure in broad learnings, and consequently, you will be unable to learn the Bodhisattva's trainings. Whereas if in this life you strived at the method for developing wisdom, you prevent the infractions of the not training in the 6 perfections as promised, then in other lives as well, as the questions of the Subhava Sutra says, you will easily be able to complete the perfection of wisdom. So if you do not do this, you contradict the principal precepts, and then will then be destroyed by the faults and infractions. In future life as well, you will not take pleasure in the broad learnings. It is true, because Gyutin result corresponding to the cause, or the result similar to the cause. It is like if you are not taking pleasure or interest in learning those practices, and you will not have an instance of willingness of learning in your future life as well, because you have not accumulated the cause. You have not accumulated the causes and condition that enables you to take an interest in learning those teachings and so forth. So therefore, it is always very important for us to right from now put in effort and persevere in learning those teachings, and put in effort and have a keen interest in learning, so that so that you will have a similar interest in your future life as well. In a better, even better than this. So, but then for me, I would say myself, probably I may be able to have a similar life as this, but I don't know whether I will be able to have a better life, because the way I accumulate those causes right now. So we'll stop here with this, and then we'll take some questions. And as Rinpoche said, that he already mentioned last time that's not to have a class next 2 weeks, which is one is so we will have again 2 Sundays break for our New Year and Christmas. So we have a little time left, and take some questions if you have. So if not, then Rinpoche said he's going to complete this paragraph and everything. So if you have questions, you can go ahead and ask. If not, Rinpoche continue on these teachings and try to finish this today. Means or no? So we'll start reading.
Sero Jendo Yang Noza Shibala Della Parashiba Della do Zoba Sheni Bisharo Ach. Tetan Doma Niki Langi Junke Ali Junke Junshin Paradishimba Julas Santella Nyane Rimba Junzen Hanlas Jengala Nyazalimbi Rimba Nu Naye Tetagi Nyane Ne Diba Tang Nishe Chibi Tok Junze Sheba Yente Sondo.
So nowadays, from among the 6 perfections, the center post of the both Sutra and Tantra parts, there exists in the slight measure the stage of the practice, the stages of the practice of meditative stabilizations, but the stages of the practice of the other 5 perfections have disappeared. So therefore, I've explained the key points of their practice in abbreviate form and a little of methods for generating certain knowledges of them.
Ta pena jero mo chege sombe kala auto yedire ta dire som tele do do yedire yana ta pare dongha ji jongshin do de pare de simba to kano chi de jeso ayina dongha kange nyas lembe ye nyane de bet me ba thank you che ani yana ta tisung tisa da ji khatu ngaso she ayina sa de la nyane chung se ji do sing de ngaso da wo de jero de som mo cha ji la ta ji shene sing de ji ga bo sing shu do 근데 가고 전마도 파신생다는 년에 제에서 배때 누게 손을 지러. 인터넷 카투손 던제도 제라 냥들 점바데 노바 나에 제다 냥네 진네 디바 니시제비 더 조세시 봐 인데 손도 지롱지. 디디고 드리다로.
Here now Lama Tsongkhapa said, nowadays from among the 6 perfections, the center posts of the both Sutra and Tantra parts, there exists in single measure the stage of the practice of meditative stabilization, but the stages of the practice of the other 5 perfections have disappeared. It is really true, right? Because now, if one's practice, whether be it the practice of Sutra or Tantra, if either one of the practice are actually devoid of all 6 perfections, one's practice become incomplete. So therefore, when one is engaging in the practice, whether it is Sutra practice or Tantra practice, one's practice must be accompanied by the practice of 6 perfections, which is very, very important. Because nowadays, actually, it is really true because we don't pay much attention to the other 5 perfections. We're paying more attention to the meditative concentration, the single-pointed concentration meditations, or shamatha, or the calm abiding. And this is what we think as the main practice, which suddenly is not right.
Sheba nante sheba karsas. Junze sheba yinte che. Jetawa ta jinjen bala mi bi shira jengo la tong nyang sin bi rimba tang samde jengo shene nyang sin bi rimba jung chewa nao ne jung yi je duen je ba ne o ne temba joro so do tere. Di yenche de tenre junze ji somba yins ina yang shene da la tong ko yi jung chenba da timba de ni je wa won song yin so so.
So here, therefore, I've explained the key points of their practice in an abbreviated form and a little of method for the generating certain knowledge of them. Below, I will teach a link to topics that comes from the classic texts, the stages of the how to practice insight. Sorry.
Shangchu senpa Tsang Gangje Tangchi Shindu la tenne Tsang Jawa Shangsa le Shindu Riri Ta Nenten de Sombe Deba Dang Maung Ba Dang Dada Shunyi Shangchu Senpa Nangji Dropa Jibe Landu Sheba Shawa Dang Dedu Gache Tangchi Ji Jiangsu Chenpo Yinba Nyangle Ji Ne Dong Lana Meba Yinde Shangsa le Songdu Deri.
So then here it says the stages of how to practice insight, wisdom that observe the real nature real nature and the diversity of phenomena, and the stages of the practice of meditative serenity, which is the meditative stabilizations. All bodhisattvas who will attain Buddhahood do so in reliance upon the six perfections. The bodhisattva's level says this emphatically at the conclusion of its discussions of each of the six perfections.
피제 제로 모체나 이 조회 말에서나 피제 리그연도서 이나 나다데 데서 상바 쳐듯이 배나 강제 조는 먼저 마저만에 저기 용발에서야 여러 다 강제신의 수지 중에서 먼저 따동 넘어요. 아주 용코로 연수서 코르제네 자베닌 것이 용코로 코르제데 자체체 통일지나 뭐네 한바 지는 레면도아.
So it is very unique teachings of Lama Tsongkhapa. If you really look at each of the teachings of the Lama Tsongkhapa, the way he actually summarized, and the way he actually integrates the teachings of all these important teachings of the great masters of the Tibet and as well as great masters of the India. So he not only just focusing on one part or another, but rather he incorporates, in other words, he indicates the teachings, the essential teachings of both Indian masters and Tibetan masters, great Tibetan masters. And then also when he has a very unique way of summarizing. So I would always sometimes think there hadn't been anyone who is able to, elaborate the teachings in this way. And sorry.
다 저런 버칭에 손비 좀 더서라 나한다고 한바씩 마셔. 한바리 라고에 메시마도 좀 최소한 마데비 좀 간대지는 타이 장소나 이래. 타이 장소를 넣는데 그래. 친체다 초충조다. 아니 근데 많이 봐지. 좀 간대지 좀 센지 손자야나 타이 장소라.
If you look at the teachings of the Lama Tsongkhapa, whether it has a huge volumes or it's a very little or a few verses, it's always like an ocean, not just a little pond or little lake and so forth or river, but rather it actually serves as an entire teachings. The way he actually writes his texts are really, really unique. Because even if he writes a few verses, within the few verses, which encapsulates entire teachings of the Buddha, it actually serves as an ocean.
다가 속에 다난 지기로 앞에나 세제다의 세제도 레바다 라와샤의 교심이 세대 저로 뭐지 많이 보는 자베 용 가려놓는 장여나 아주 도바로 뒤쪽이 나제 준비 주변 담배치 가려지는 배에나 세제로
그럼 이제 예수는
또 놀러라 세제다의 세제도 레바다 라와샤의 교심이 세대 저로 뭐지 마도 장이 중요하다 세제로 다 대담비의 로고를 지거로다 덤비 손랑에 신주 제게 인생이지.
So this is how that in the sutra it has stated that just as a goldsmith undertaken a very the actions of finding out the authenticity of the gold by rubbing, burning, and cutting it. Similarly, for bhikshus or the followers, you must examine my teachings. You should not taken, as by faith or mere devotions. Rather, one should analyze thoroughly. So this is how Lama Tsongkhapa was doing. He bravely go through all those teachings, and there are some teachings that can be, identified as a definitive, and some that as a interpretable, and so forth. And it is only a few great masters, including Lama Tsongkhapa, can do and have such a bravery of able to do when differentiates definitive and interpretable teachings of the Buddha.
Ni drupa nyasa limbi loji to no la ta pyo kanje jo no la ngane pa tanda je ngi tendre yoro inde shi du ni jo ne temba jimba la da shintu senje rang re do.
So really the pioneer we also it is well known, Lama Tsongkhapa was well known as a pioneer of the Dharma in Snowland, which is really true, because he's not only just very good in writings and so forth, but also went through extensive practices, rigorous practices, and both practicing and studying are combined. It is due to the combination of those two, and his fame is flourish and pervaded entire region of Snowland.
Nye de njawa membe de shibo man to dan jajung kanti chi so na jepa zo jibe to ne ni jepa hi pyu de shwa yin ba kanshi ji la ani dube ge la ani nyane zhe san ba jire dos da ka zhe zo nga zo ji shui cha ro so su de zhe shui ji nang ye jire do se de wa.
So this is how that's what I'm saying is like the way Lama Tsongkhapa teaches and is really, under great analysis. The way he teaches, it's not just this is how you should believe and this is how it should be without having any reasonings. He never says that. Always go through an analysis and then draw the conclusions after the final analysis.
Ende shansa le lana me ba inde shansa le paro de shimba tubo de da ke lana me ba yang da ba zu bi shan chu yang da ba ta ba shi bi shan chu san ba na ne ga bi chu ji chi chen bo dang ga bi chu ji yang zu chen bo xie sha de sen jie tang ji de nang ba tang ji pyu song chu bi ju ren bo chin chen bo yin ba yin no de da ke san na dang ye xie ji chu yang da ba zu ba 바도 메바 대이 제베 제달라나 메바 양다바 주비 상추당 튠바 답이 제네 메도 셰소소.
Therefore, it says the Bodhisattva's level says, and particularly the collections of its discussions of each six perfections. Hence, these six perfections are to be known as the one path traveled by the Bodhisattvas of the past, present, and future. And because of the six are the great oceans of the all virtue, they are the perfect summary of the key points of the practice. The Bodhisattva level states, Bodhisattvas who attain unsurpassed perfect enlightenment by these six perfections are called the great river and great ocean of virtues, generosity, and so forth, are the most precious cause of all excellent things for all living beings. Accordingly, there is nothing comparable to the perfections immeasurable completions of the collections of the merit and sublime wisdom and their fruits of unsurpassed perfect enlightenment. So Buddha has given us these teachings of the precious teachings of the six perfections. And for us, now, by means of listening to the teachings and practicing through one's realizations, one can also give, elucidate these teachings to the other followers, the teachings of the six perfections to the other followers. If one is able to do this, then one is able to establish excellent causes for enlightenment within the continuum, not only in oneself, but also the continuum of other sentient beings.
다 델레심바 메나 다 데로와다 델레심바네 메도 손도와 델레심바지 요리 데레생이지 야나다 디그로와 단다발레 페지 점부 페네선데 단다발레 지된 가서지 페나야 델레심바랑 같이 레생이지 송에 조마티야.
So there is no other path to enlightenment. In other words, other than 6 perfections. There's no causes that leads oneself to the state of enlightenment. It had never had in the past. It will never be, and it is not. So therefore, there had been many masters emerge on this planet Earth, propounding teachings and elucidating all the teachings. All of them, unanimously express that importance of engaging the practice of 6 perfections, and those are the sole path to the state of enlightenment. There's no other way around to gain the state of enlightenment, and devoid of practice of 6 perfections. Period.
가르세는 델레심바지 요네 많이 봐 말어와 매 델레심바 매나 많이 와 대마도 랑가진네 대매베 진세 가르세는 가서 로인 조통다 네 링하게 세고라 더 간제 리센이게 네 대두 쳐더라 아니 턱 델레심바 매바로와.
So it is not that we haven't found any other path to the state of enlightenment. There's no any other path. That is what is meant. It's not that we haven't found, but there is something but we haven't found. This is not what we are talking about here. Because there is no such path devoid other than 6 perfections to the state of enlightenment. So it is therefore we cannot find any other paths to the state of enlightenment. Because the way that 6 perfection, teachings of 6 perfection is given in a very much, accord, correspond to the one's way of thinking and one's way of, life. And this is the path that really becomes the sole, cause for gaining state of enlightenment.
안디체 당가서 대장이 다 맞아 단다 사비 네 대체 대손 사비 겨와나 네 쇼치도 담비 돌아대네 네 바로 대신 바주 아니 냐스 냐스레만 네나야 네 메비에 대신에 림바 못도 봐 네도 인지 미지 바로 대신 바주 냐스레게 인스베 당자 템보자비도 네 뉴바양 되는 시간 아마나지 신절로도서 전에 네 라신지 손이 네 때대치 두두야지라 오늘 몇에 저기 인사나네 홍한다 너는 소화유비토네 진호하나 오늘 편토에.
So now let's do our dedications by means of accumulation of merits of the 3 times of oneself and that of all other sentient beings, and praying and committing oneself to really to engage in the practice of 6 perfections and 6 perfections. And so may I be able to engage in the practice of 6 perfections and again the realization of 6 perfections. May all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas please bless me to be able to do this for the benefit of all other sentient beings, oneself and all other sentient beings.
能真家业红波大觉人，天马顺别财道更多，家别养着这边接送呢，定别人把更脏能觉，年年周边接能年是肉，让给之前周边能觉。修着这边正月到给节，周月月节明报谁写？家业担保有人在纠结，担保人间出给马脚。家家娘把举杯说的呢，年节真不一绕就把。跟爹爹爹是我先把肉，谁见就也没用吃的。列住上秋能觉人别中，唐的能觉一浪别的。家业在把人多中觉知，朗诵主编军前主席。眼见世界没到没明根，才绕更多家业忙忙。浪到浪动着我们就知，光是的不就了就知。曲线中把曲线住了，怎把的叶子，头天能就到都出些金，这些将是手根敲就结，就是老面不菜着的。南瓜天的手卷节目，老张点别正面扫送，昨夜面色大多年就结，旁着肉人过于心安，便当的我马年永远，现在在我定人家做，要别身体保多点就结，要别八月知道钱包。更多让我这样的钱，得到根据就是道路，给我得到当街绕多，我就算西边叫我当街，我刚落出多航班，大钱给月早晚都给，从不学习劳动。哎呀，吐气，感觉。